Near itself is also highly modular implementation, but runs as a cohesive solution for people to really leverage without needing to think about the implementation details. So my position is like a lot of the current modular is really introduces complexity of implementation to users and developers, which they don't really need to know. And so that's really what we've been trying to solve from the start. Like, how do we remove this complexity? How do we make chain abstracted?
None of the information in this podcast constitutes investment advice or an offer, recommendation, or solicitation by WAGMI Ventures or any of its affiliates to buy or sell any securities. Hey WAGMI fam, we've got an exciting one for you all today. Of course, it's your host, Big El Mashreen. I'm here with one of the pioneers in crypto and AI space. He's no stranger to many of you. I'm joined today by IlIia Polosukhin, co-founder of Near Protocol and the Near Foundation. Near is a highly scalable blockchain network that provides a developer-friendly, decentralized application platform. For anyone who is new, this is the WAGMI Ventures podcast, where we do snapshots with interesting builders and founders across AI and crypto. Check out wagmiventures.io to learn more about the syndicate behind the podcast. All right, it's going to get really interesting here. Let's jump into it with IlIia. Welcome to the show, IlIia.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're honored to have you, man. Let's talk about your crypto journey, your inspiration for the creation of Near, and what problem you were trying to solve.
Yeah, for sure. So my journey, in general, professional journey, started in AI machine learning space. I've been excited about this topic actually since I was 10 and started working professionally when I was 17, working on variety of applying machine learning to different problems, as well as advancing core algorithms. And I joined Google Research. I led a team working on natural language understanding and was part of the team that developed transformer model, which is powering ChatGPT, Midjourney, and all of the other products in modern AI space. And so I left with the idea that we should apply this technology to teaching machines to code. So we started Near AI as my co-founder, originally as an AI company focused on how do we use transformers, which were barely published, to really transform how we interact with computing, right? Where applications can be built on the fly. Now, back in 2017, this sounded like a science fiction, and we were obviously very early. And so what we were doing, because there was no kind of available compute at scale that's available now, we were doing a lot more data collecting, data labeling. And so we had people around the world, mostly computer science students from Eastern Europe, China, Southeast Asia, who would do different small tasks for us, write some code, write some comments, fix some code. And we were paying them small amounts of money. And so we actually had our own challenge, because paying into all of these countries were pretty complicated. It required a lot of manual things. Like China, almost nothing would send money there. People didn't have bank accounts. And so we actually needed to OTC money into WeChat to pay people. So that's how we started looking at blockchain is, can this global payment network solve our problem? Can it really provide us this programmatic kind of micropayment solution to pay for labor for work of people around the world? And the answer was no. It was actually too expensive. Bitcoin and Ethereum in 2018 were already too expensive to use for this use case where we're paying people 30 cents. So being systems engineers, distributed systems engineers, we dove in to understand more in the proverbial crypto rabbit hole and seen a pretty dramatic difference from what we've seen, how you design systems in Googles and Facebooks of the world and how things are designed in blockchain. And that's really when we decided to pause our AI efforts and focus on building out a blockchain that would be able to scale, would be accessible for everyone to use for kind of the smallest micropayments, would be easy to use and easy to develop on as well. So that's really a journey from AI research to AI product to really figuring out that blockchain is a fundamental part of this and building this out.
It's pretty cool. I think initially starting as an AI company, then moving to crypto, and now you're back in that space where you're seeing the amalgamation of both technologies. Has the problem statement had changed or evolved during that period of time?
I think the problem statement was evolving with our understanding of kind of crypto principles. The kind of original idea was, hey, this is the tool that we can use that should be global, should be available everywhere. But I think as you get down the rabbit hole, you understand more the values, and we framed the overarching mission of everyone owning their assets, data, and power of choice. And that kind of mission continues carrying even in AI space now, where I think the question of who controls the AI that you're using is becoming more and more important. So making sure that AI is user-owned instead of corporate-owned, instead of somebody else making money of you using AI systems is becoming even more important than ever. So I think the understanding that blockchain can offer effectively a different model, not a corporate system where you have to maximize the revenue in a way of extracting it from users, but instead creating a user-owned system, I think have introduced just a new level of how we bring blockchain AI together in this user-owned AI.
Got it. NEAR has since developed and evolved from there. As a matter of fact, it is being touted as one of the most developer-friendly blockchains. What specific innovations do you think make it stand out and make it one of the go-to chains for developers?
Yeah, there has been a lot of decisions been made early on to ensure that it is developer-friendly. We actually, back in 2019, talked with about 300 Web3 projects that probably almost everyone who existed at the time to understand what were their challenges, what were their problems and shortcomings of various blockchain solutions. And there was a number of things that were important to developers and users in turn, right? Obviously, a smooth onboarding, ability to cover transaction fees for users, making sure that users don't need to expose to the blockchain too deeply, right? For example, W2C hashes and 0x addresses. But also for developers, they wanted to use a normal programming language, right? IlIia doesn't let you to just import a library and use it. There was a lot of limitations on how much so-called gas you can use on this or that. NEAR really solves all of these problems fundamentally, right? We have a very different account model. The accounts are key. The identity of the account isn't just a domain name string, right? So my account is root.near. So it's very readable. It's understandable. There's ways to kind of navigate it. The account itself can serve it as a smart contract. And so it's really easy to go back and forth, turn your account into a multi-sig or a DAO or go back. There's a number of different access keys with different permissions. So you can have different devices accessing your account, or this can be a multi-sig for managing smart contract or funds. So there's a lot of flexibility that developers receive. And then we have gasless transactions. You can cover gas fees for the users. You can design probably the most complex smart contracts in blockchain space. We actually run EVM, the whole Ethereum virtual machine, as a smart contract on NEAR. We have actually lots of copies of it running. And
Interesting.
You can effectively just take existing code of EVM that other people run as a separate blockchain and run it as a smart contract. And that's how powerful near VM is, that it can hold on to blockchains just as smart contracts. And the near itself is designed to continue sharp scale as more contracts and users are appearing, so that your fees are spiking or growing. And that's done through the sharding mechanism, effectively allowing you to scale the size of the block dynamically with the demand. It was a lot of careful decisions to really enable this, to make sure that you can write in Rust and TypeScript. We actually have a Python support as well launching, which was now more focused on the AI developers who want to build smart contracts. You can use normal programming languages. You can use traditional libraries without any changes. Like all of that is available for developers, which is not true about any other blockchain.
Interesting. Hey, everybody. Quick thing here. We're excited to announce WAGMI Advisory, your home for all things fundraising, hiring, and partnerships. This is all about supercharging your project with the WAGMI network, consisting of over 20,000 executives, investors, and builders in crypto, all ready to come alongside your project to help it succeed. Get in touch at team@wagmiventures.io to learn more and figure out if WAGMI Advisory is the right fit for your project. Let's get back to the show. I think your point there on ETH just makes me think of the rise of ETH layer 2s and compared to where NEAR is, and just wondering where you see NEAR fit in that broader debate, L1 versus L2, and especially the Ethereum layer 2s.
Yeah, I mean, somewhat is a joke, but very seriously, you can actually take all Ethereum layer 2s and Ethereum mainnet and put them on NEAR.
Wow.
And it will continue working. I think for a while we actually had more transactions than all Ethereum and layer 2s combined. I think Base right now has grew, but for a while we literally were processing more transactions than all of them combined. And we can process all of them combined and all of the existing NEAR transactions combined, no problem. So then we'll continue to scale from there. Yeah, I think generally speaking, if Ethereum, for example, adopts our standard, they can just onboard all of the layer 2s back as just smart contracts or execution environments, they were calling them back in 2019. Yeah, I think generally the NEAR blockchain at least is designed to continue scaling if each smart contract on NEAR, right? This can be just your usual trading contract, lending contract, the game, or a whole VM, right? A whole another chain effectively that just lives on top of NEAR. Like all of them can scale up to a whole shard of capacity. So they can actually scale up to a whole chain for other chains. So there's no real limitations that blockchains have. And we're actually working on sharded smart contracts so that something that is not possible at all right now anywhere, which is contracts can become actually more scalable than one chain can offer, right? Imagine even right now, a lot of not a lot, but Base and sometimes run out of capacity as a layer 2. And again, if they adopt a sharded smart contract approach, they can actually scale beyond what one chain can offer. Yeah, I think there is debate around what's the right approach, but we also maybe shifting gears took a little bit of an orthogonal thing here, because we from the beginning believed that the blockchain should not be in front of the user. That's not the level of abstraction that users should be exposed to directly. To give you an example, you don't really think usually are you using Amazon Web Services or Google Cloud or some other cloud. Like when we recording this podcast, which cloud is used, you have all of this abstracted out. And we've taken this approach of chain abstraction where a lot of decisions are made again, we're really to hide complexity of blockchain from the user. And that's why NEAR can scale, is because actually each NEAR contract is effectively its own chain. We just really package it well and hide from the users. And so because of that, we can also connect with other chains as easily. And NEAR is designed for that. So you can write a NEAR smart contract that calls into the layer 2 and IlIia, Ethereum, Solana, or any other chain, we even have a lot of Bitcoin applications as well in this kind of chain abstracted fashion where you are using an application. Underneath, there is a near blockchain facilitating effectively communication between different chains, managing your account to enable this functionality. But as a user, you don't think about it. You may be depositing your Bitcoin and you use a popular fund or hyper-liquid. Those are examples of effectively the vision we've been building toward from the start is you use applications, derive value from using blockchain, but you don't think about low-level details of where is transaction sent, how gas is spent, etc., even if it's like across multiple different blockchains.
Yeah, that context is and insight is really helpful there. I wanted to actually talk a little bit there about the scalability. I think you mentioned it as well, but would be good to just understand how Nightshade's approach to scalability is different from other scaling solutions like rollups.
Yeah, Nightshade approach is effectively this idea that if you have a lot of, so there's on one side there's a monolithic, a single chain, single block on single computer, and you need to synchronize everything, and so you have limitations on bandwidth, the limitations on how much one computer can process, and you have limitations on how much one computer can store. Then on the other side, you have effectively Cosmos world where everything is a separate chain and everybody has a separate set of validators. Now you have limitations around, is it secure to use the other blockchain? Is it secure to communicate with this? Like, where is it? Which blockchains even exist, right? Because somebody can launch a blockchain, it's not connected to anything, there's no registry of all the blockchains. And then the Ethereum took somewhat closer to that approach where, okay, everything, we're going to parallelize things with the separate chains, but we're going to make sure that they synchronize with the Ethereum mainnet by posting their blocks there. But there's a lot of, obviously, challenges around the synchronization because now you need to prove the execution. And so you have delays from hours to days with optimistic rollups, still hours for ZK rollups. You have still the problem of like, where are these rollups? You still have the problem of, if I have an account on one rollup, I have not tried to use application on another rollup. There is no mechanism for other rollup to accept things from my rollup, so you need to effectively exit and enter. And then there's a lot of mechanisms cost money to transport between them directly. They just like added so much complexity on the user side and developer side. And in turn, every developer just launches them every rollup. So you don't really get any scalability benefits because now you just have Uniswap everywhere. And everybody's using Uniswap and arbitraging Uniswap across all of it, filling in the blocks with that. What Near took is a different approach. It said, hey, let's imagine from a user and developer perspective, it's still a monolithic chain. And it still looks like a single chain. You have one account. And how would you do it such that the block size can continue growing, the bandwidth can continue growing, the state can continue growing, and you're not limited by a single machine. And the way you do it in Web2, in Google, and Facebook, is so-called sharding. Right? You don't store every user's data on one computer, you split it across different computers. And you obviously have replication to make sure that if one computer goes down, there's other computers to pick it up. And so that's what Nightshade is doing. Nightshade says, hey, there's a one block a second, and this block has a number of shards, right? So, for example, right now we're running at 6 shards. We're going to go to 8. So every block has effectively 6 so-called chunks. Each chunk has a subset of transactions of this block. This subset of transactions was ordered by a different subset of nodes in the network. And then we employed this mechanism called stateless validation, which actually was published by Vitalik back in the day, where when the blocks are produced, they attach all the information required, like anyone else, to validate that this block is correct. Anyone doesn't need to track the blockchain, doesn't need to track the state of this specific shard. They can just pick up this chunk, validate that the state transition is correct, and send the confirmation. And so now you have this system where effectively every second you have a fully synchronized view of all of the shards, like in the Ethereum world rollups. And so you are able to guarantee that if you send a message from one rollup to another, it will arrive next block. You can guarantee that like you don't need now an account on every shard, right? You can just have an account on one shard and call things on another shard easily. Same with gas. You don't need to have different gas tokens, gas markets, etc. You don't need to have all the different complexity. From a user perspective, this looks like a single chain. If there's more demand, you can actually add more capacity by adding more shards. There's no limit on kind of bandwidth because, again, with adding more shards, you effectively divide the required bandwidth. Like each machine needs only 1/6 of total bandwidth of the network, and same with state. So all of these limitations that exist right now, for example, in Solana, where because it's effectively one computer synchronizing the whole network at all times, here we continue subdividing into sharding. But it also addresses all the challenges of rollups with experience, with developer experience, with cross-rollup communication by interleaving all of that into consensus.
Yeah, that was great background on the differentiation between how you approach scaling using Nightshade. I'm going to switch gears here a little bit and still along the same lines, but how does Near position itself in a world that everywhere you turn to, it's all about the modular blockchain? And you're seeing the industry shift towards more modular blockchain designs. Does Near see itself as a modular or monolithic chain in the long run?
I mean, I honestly think the modular and monolithic is a made-up distinction on crypto Twitter, just so there is some distinction for things. People make narratives to keep pushing things. Like from implementation perspective, all of the blockchain implementations are very modular, right? Even Solana has modular components. You can use SVM separately, and people are doing that with Eclipse and a few other projects. Or you can use them as data availability. And same with Near, we had Near data availability solution that anybody can use because it's just part of our consensus. And as I mentioned, you can, and we do have, and I think over 40 EVMs. So other chains are running just on top of Near. So if you do want to run your own chain with your own, for example, token for gas, with your own restrictions on who can deploy contracts or only KYC users or whatever else you want to use, like all of that is possible on Near very easily. It's actually way easier than you would do this with the layer 2 because you hooked into all of the Near ecosystem right away because it's just a smart contract. So the reality is like all of these they're camps that are throwing stuff at each other versus like really technical differentiation. Like Near itself is also highly modular like implementation, but runs as a cohesive solution for people to really leverage without needing to think about the implementation details. Yeah, I mean, my position is like a lot of the current modular is really introduces complexity of implementation to users and developers, which they don't really need to know. And so that's really what we've been trying to solve from the start. Like, how do we remove this complexity? How do we make chain abstracted, both for users, but even for developers in many ways? And so that's really our position. And again, we've been pushing chain abstraction in a broader sense as well, integrating and abstracting other blockchains, Bitcoin and EVM, Solana, etc. as well.
And even in that journey, you've also been exploring AI and AI's role in the blockchain. What would you say is the AI's role in Near today? Are you building more decentralized AI models for deployment on the chain? What is Near's role in all of that?
Yeah, so this is actually going back to the thesis we started Near AI back in 2017. And this is that AI will change how we interact with computing. If the applications can be built on the fly, if decisions by AI can be made, you actually don't need most of the existing web, like internet, at all, because a lot of the existing internet is effectively trying to navigate and surface information and delegate some of the decision making to aggregators and abstract some of the complexity. And so AI is changing all of this. And so that's a fundamental thesis that, like, AI is, even from my perspective, the last technology wave, because everything else will be built by AI. And so within that thesis, there's effectively two important nodes. One is we want to make sure that this AI is owned by everyone, so user-owned AI, right? And so blockchain is obviously a kind of
decentralization,
cornerstone of enabling that. And the other thesis is, the other part of the thesis is, if we're changing how we interact with computing, right? Effectively, you can think of AI becoming the universal user interface to everything. This is a platform shift that enables to make everything, the commerce especially, a lot more streamlined, and it opens up this opportunity for actually adopting blockchain across the board, right? Where before it might have been hard to introduce it. Now, because AI is already changing how we're interfacing things, we may as well employ blockchain, because blockchain is better and faster and cheaper for kind of commerce, supply chain, and all of the other aspects of commercial activity. And so if you combine those two theses, this is effectively what we're going with near being blockchain for AI, is because that is the most fundamental shift that we have. And near is really positioned to serve this new decentralized intermediary between all of our individual AI assistants who are focused on our own success, and how they are going to go and roam and connect with other AI assistants and agents and smart contracts and kind of service providers. Because the AI assistants don't need Google anymore. They can go and scan tens of thousands of options. They can communicate with 100,000 other agents to find the best option. And so the decision making that before Google would rank results for you, the FDA would choose which medicine and food is good for you, et cetera, et cetera. Amazon would recommend you things that they are trying to make money from. All of that is going away, because your AI assistant will effectively be shielding all of that and navigating internet on your behalf. And it needs to be able to find things. It needs to be able to pay for things. It needs to be able to have secure kind of escrow money, make sure the product is delivered, dispute systems, etc. And so that's all what near blockchain offering at massive scale. And obviously, we're building products around that to have confidential AI inference and agent hosting to make sure that all of the information that you are giving to AI stays fully confidential and nobody is able to seize this. There's interagent communication and payments protocols and kind of a number of other components to feed this vision. But that's really near position to sit in between everybody's AI assistants and kind of the rest of the world in how you interact with it, and serve as this decentralized intermediary that's on your side and that you can effectively use for peer-to-peer commerce, for AI decision making, for knowing that your AI assistant is private and personal.
Yeah, that's a pretty big, grand vision. I want to underline a few things you said there. AI being the last technology, the universal interface to everything, and near being a decentralized intermediary. These are really powerful, forward-thinking themes, and I just wonder what you see as the biggest challenges getting there as you sort of merge AI to crypto.
I think the traditional challenges, we are racing with time on some centralized AI platform, effectively making a major leap where there's no way to, the thing with AI, there's a takeoff moment, right? The takeoff moment is when somebody's AI is able to self-improve and effectively including actually limit everybody else's ability to self-improve or improve, even being improved at all. But even in a more like practical sense, right, as products in Web2 mature, the window to introduce a more decentralized option is going to close as well. And so that's really that's a race with time and with adoption, right? Because users are saying they want things on their side, but when they're voting with dollars, they still prefer better products. And so the goal is to achieve a better product in confidential, user first, user owned way. And that's obviously not a small feat. But there is a lot of people who are aligned value wise. The idea is like together we're pushing this forward to make sure this is happening. The other part is that is complicated and limits adoption is connectivity with fiat world. So when we're talking about some digital, so to give you an example, I talk to my assistant, I say, hey, run a marketing campaign. It can go find an agent who is cool. I can do it for this much. They negotiate the price. I pay them in crypto. And then that AI agent goes, maybe even recruits other AI agents to do different work. And so all of that just lives purely in the digital world, and kind of crypto serves as a payment rail. But if I want to order a pizza or get a taxi, right now, those establishments or individuals want to receive fiat. And so you do need this kind of fiat crypto gateways that are like not prohibitively expensive. And that's been the biggest limitation, is that just on-ramp and off-ramp has been massively expensive due to a variety of reasons.
Yeah. And just on the thinking through the challenges in AI and what you guys are doing today, the foundation recently launched a $20 million AI agent fund to support AI-driven use cases on the Near blockchain, including gaming, market making, DeFi. It's fantastic. I think it was very well received. Just curious what the foundation's top priority over the next 12 to 24 months, and if we're going to continue to see this kind of support coming out of the foundation for development in the space.
Yeah, I mean, foundation's priority is for sure to continue growing kind of the financial infrastructure of the Near ecosystem in this AI world. And this fund is exactly that, is focused on what we believe this agent is going to be the next billion-dollar businesses, because they're going to be effectively serving what right now some of the more traditional businesses are doing. And so the opportunity for this fund is actually to be in the open market to really pick and support financially projects that are launching, agents that are launching their token on Near, and both signaling their support, but also this funds to build a portfolio of this future billion-dollar businesses. So yeah, the goal for foundation is growing this kind of intersection of DeFi and AI, but not just in what people call DeFi, whatever, where you have AI agents doing some DeFi stuff, but actually, what is the AI agents like that are raising capital to, for example, build a marketing automation? Let's imagine a marketing studio becomes just one agent that is maybe recruits other AI agents to do things, right? That's a potential billion-dollar business. Or a legal company that now is an AI agent that maybe gets other legal experts to verify its work, but serves as a front end, and now you don't need to pay retainer to legal companies. So all of those are effectively billion-dollar opportunities. And this fund is first wave of supporting these assets in the market.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I mean, are there any exciting projects or dApps that are currently being built, whether it's through this fund support or just other initiatives on Near?
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole variety of exciting things, right? I mean, we haven't talked about Near Intents, but that's effectively the protocol to do exchange of value across not just Near, but all blockchains. So that's been evolving, and they just launched Zcash and Bera last week, and gonna launch more networks and more features as well. So that is growing really nicely. and it serves as a fundamental building block for other applications. There's a whole suite of Bitcoin applications, like how do you do things, as I said, in chain abstracted way with Bitcoin. The one I really is prime brokerage that allows you to deposit Bitcoin and then use Hyperliquid, Pump.Fun, Magic Eden, and effectively under the hood, it borrows against your Bitcoin, swaps it into destination assets through near intents, and then executes an action on that chain, on the destination chain on your behalf. So fully chain abstracted. You don't need to think about different chains, different tokens, different gas assets, etc. All of that is handled for you. There's obviously Runes Marketplace, there's lending protocol, multi-chain lending protocols. So all of the DeFi kind of infrastructure that's needed for this AI agents to really unroll easily, as well as powering more degen and professional cases for the users on chain. We have a number of AI agents as well, building from, again, more use case specific support and developer stuff to marketing to more consumer things where you can buy and participate in real economy, be that Amazon or ticketing. So a really big variety of cases, and all of this gets plugged into our top line applications in the ecosystem to make sure that every user in Near is able to leverage this AI functionality and really increase their productivity, and as well as access to both Web 2 use cases and Web 3.
Yeah, no, that's definitely exciting. I really love the DApp you talk about with the prime brokerage use case and a Bitcoin application. But two quick questions before we come to a close here. How can developers, builders, enterprises, just folks who are really excited about Near, how can they engage with the Near ecosystem?
Yeah, I mean, for developers, I mean, you can go to docs.near.org, right? We do have a hackathon actually for AI agents ongoing right now until end of Feb. And then we're going to actually roll into another one in March. So there's a lot of kind of opportunity for developers to engage. For users, again, there's a ton of opportunity. I didn't mention, but yeah, like we have applications like Hot, which is a fully chain abstracted wallet. It allows you to use, I think, like almost a dozen different chains. Again, you don't need to think about gas tokens on them. You don't need to think about creating, like installing different wallet providers, switching between networks, etc. All of that is handled by you, for you, using the same kind of technology stack. So I would say, like, if you're a user, that's probably the great place to start, is applications like Hot, Satoshi Port, the prime brokerage, and a few others that are launching, already launched, to really enable this multi-chain experiences. The Near Intents, Near-Intents is the other one for kind of multi-chain trading experience. And yeah, if you're institutional, I mean, reach out. We would love to talk on Near Foundation side. There's a kind of ton of opportunity from financial side as well as from AI side to really start leveraging kind of this combination for simplifying and automating business processes in businesses.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. The vision and the scale is definitely pretty large for Near and Near AI, if I may. But would also love to hear your thoughts on what else in crypto excites you today, especially as we're beginning to see more innovation and we're in a much more crypto-friendly, crypto-forward administration here in the U.S. Would just like to get your sense of interesting takes that you see happening.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of exciting things happening. I agree that the opportunity is, like, the window is really open. I think between the US administration and in general, I think the technology is really there. The chain abstraction, multi-chain, the wallets, the kind of even some of the on-ramp solutions are a lot better than they ever been. And so now it's really building useful products that are solving specific problems. And that's what I'm excited to, with the agents we're working on, that people are building. I mean, interesting things I think for sure is like combination of there's teams that are working on decentralized training, that are really exciting, because I think that will be a big part of this future, to make sure we have an alternative to big companies open sourcing stuff. There is a lot of exciting things around Deepin for sure, as well as an alternative infrastructure. Excited to see just like more experiments in general of like consumer products that are using crypto mechanisms to bootstrap growth as well. I think we haven't yet seen, like, we've seen things that like went really quickly and burned. I think figuring out how to do that properly without it becoming like a kind of pump and dump, but actually like creating a sustainable incentive mechanism. I'm really excited to see that. So yeah, I think that there's a lot of awesome things to look forward, and exciting to see this, as well as I think we all have effectively 5 years to make this play, make AI user owned. And it's really important to put this time to use in a proper way.
Yeah, no, it's always great to hear your thoughts beyond what your immediate focus is. So yeah, that was very insightful there. Thank you. Again, IlIia, it's always a pleasure. Thank you for coming on the show. We'll look to have you back again as things evolve with Near for sure, and with the crypto industry overall. Appreciate you coming on, and see you soon.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Hey everybody, thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, go ahead and give us a good 5-star rating and subscribe wherever you're getting your podcasts, so you can get all the latest conversations from the most interesting founders, builders, and investors from across the world. Thanks so much, and have a good one.